It's beyond common sense. It's Lanny Sense with Lanny Swerglo, KCAA's resident gay, woke, liberal, pot-smoking, race-mixing, tree-hugging, left-handed, science-affirming, Jewish, humanist, atheist, a white evangelical Christian nationalist, worst nightmare. Welcome to the Nightmare, Lanny Sense, the show that, well, KCA Radio leaves no listener behind, and we're the show that leaves no gender behind. So welcome to Lanny Sense. I am so glad you have joined us tonight. Sitting here in the studio with me, the virtual studio, is everybody's favorite curmudgeon, Sam Clowder. And we're going to have a great show tonight. And if you have been reading about the little promos I've been putting out, we're going to have a show tonight. We're going to reveal, like it's a big secret, Trump's 8 mistresses. Some people says, why are you doing that? Well, because it's fun, and during the campaign and stuff, the Republicans certainly made a big deal out of Kamala Harris's affair with Willie Brown. So that was just one affair, and they spent a lot of time on that. I don't know how many millions of dollars they spent on advertising for it. And you know what? And the Democrats, as far as I know, didn't spend a dime advertising about any of Trump's affairs. And they are very, very interesting. Some of them are not so interesting, but some of them are very interesting. And we're going to go over them right now, the affairs of Donald Trump. So let me put on my glasses here, because I want to make sure I've got this all right for you. I didn't want to do it wrong. We have 8 women here. Now, we don't know how many women Donald Trump wooed. These are the ones he talked about, and that's what's kind of interesting. He talks about it, he brags about it, and all this kind of stuff. And what puzzles me so much is the evangelical Christians are head over heels for this guy, and I can't help believing they've got to know about this. They got to know about all this kind of stuff. It's not a secret. They got to know about Stormy Daniels and all his wives and all this kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if Donald Trump is having an effect on evangelicals. And the evangelicals are going to become swingers. They're going to become swingers. He says, if our president can do all this kind of stuff, we can't sit there and say he's wrong. So maybe some of the younger ones will become swingers. If it's okay for the president of the United States and the person that the evangelical Christian community is supported by 80% vote or something like that, well, then it's okay for us. So that'll be the new communion at the evangelical churches, swinging with different people. Well, anyway, let's start out with number one, and that's Marla Maples. That's one of the first that we know about. Marla Maples is an American television personality and actress known for her work in For Richer and Poorer, executive assistant, and A Nanny for Christmas. Very apropos for this time, except the show is about 15 years old. But she was in the program called A Nanny for Christmas. Trump initiated a relationship with actress and model Marla Maples after meeting in 1984. The relationship began while he was still married to Ivana and was subject to publicity, with the New York Post famously revealing, and the New York Post loves to reveal things, that Marla called Donald, quote, the best sex I've ever had, end quote, a statement she would later deny ever making. So, interesting. But if anybody would know, I guess Marla Maples would know, wouldn't she? Shortly after divorcing Ivana in 1992, Donald Trump married Marla in December 1993. The couple welcomed a daughter, Tiffany Trump, in 1993, marrying 2 months after she was born. In the extravagant plaza wedding that they had, Marla wore a Carolina Herrera, I hope I'm pronouncing it, Herrera gown, and a Harry Winston tiara worth $2 million. Now, I don't know whether Trump bought it or he just rented it for the night. It didn't say in the articles I read. They just talked about what it was. Anyway, their relationship ended in a way that it began, and this is really great. Long story short, in 1996, a police officer came upon Maples, Marla Maples, and Trump's bodyguard, who was reportedly making out underneath a lifeguard stand in Palm Beach at 4 a.m. That sounds really kind of cool, doesn't it? Making out at 4 a.m. in Palm Beach. I'm sure it's a nice, warm time. Anyway, so that didn't sit very well. And right after the incident, the bodyguard got fired. And in it wasn't, that's kind of taking out the bodyguard. Why? He didn't do anything. He was just guarding her body, wasn't she? Anyway, after the bodyguard got fired in 1999, Maples got tired of Trump, and they got divorced. Now, they separated in 1997, which set into a 2-year battle over the prenuptial agreement. So apparently they had a prenuptial agreement. That's not out of line. Trump's worth a lot of money, and Marla Maples wasn't worth that much money, even though she was a very successful model. And so they had a prenuptial agreement. But eventually, Maples decided to walk away to spare herself what she said, quote, further emotional and physical turmoil, end quote. So she just walked away from the battle over the new prenuptial agreement. It was revealed 2 decades later that she only received $1 million, plus an additional $1 million to buy a house. She would later auction off her engagement ring. Get this. She would later auction off her engagement ring to get funds for herself. But it seems that there were no hard feelings, as they have spent some Easters together in April 2023. Well, that's Marla Maples. Isn't that wonderful? She got divorced. She got married and sorts, and she got $2 million for marrying Donald Trump, who was a billionaire. So he got off easily, All right. His second mistress was a woman by the name of Gabriella Sabatini. I hope I'm pronouncing these right. Gabriella Sabatini is a former professional tennis player. She was born in Argentina, won titles at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, and even earned a silver medal at the 1988 Seoul Olympics in South Korea. It's safe to say that Donald Trump was quite a fan of her one-handed backhand, since the two had a short affair back in 1989. Then only 19 years old, Sabine dated Trump, even though he was still married at the time to Ivana, and the thing with Mistress Marla Maples was on a break. So he was still married to Ivana, but the thing going on with Marla wasn't going on very much, so he dated the 19-year-old tennis star. Surprisingly, the relationship ended after 1 month. Sabatini went on to enjoy a very successful career that culminated in the release of her best-selling perfumes and her induction into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Now, when the Argentina sensation was just 19 years old, she was courted by the president. And when the affair did end with the tennis star, Trump did reunite with Marla Maples at that time, while he was in the process of divorcing Ivana. Okay, so there we go. Short affair, not long, very long, just a couple weeks. Kind of like I say, it was a break. He wasn't seeing Marla. He was divorcing his wife. He didn't have anything to do, so he took up with this tennis star, 19-year-old tennis star. All right, let's go on. Roanne Brewer Lane. This was number three mistress. Trump, who was 44 at the time, first met the 26-year-old model. He seems to really go for models. Roanne Brewer Lane at a Mar-a-Lago pool party. She began dating Trump shortly after he separated from his first wife, Ivana. So when they finally separated from her, I'm not sure it was divorce, but he was separated. He started dating her. Brewer Lane was a contestant in the Miss USA competition, where she was Miss Maryland. That was before Trump bought it, so there wasn't any kind of skullduggery that she won because Trump wanted her to win. It was over 10 years later that he bought the USA competition. Now, Brewer Lane, She had a successful modeling career, once winning a, quote, best body on the beach, end quote, competition. So she was good looking, good looking. At their first meeting, Trump reportedly showed the 1988 Miss Maryland, Miss Lane, around his sumptuous estate, but their time spent together was more than just that. It seems Trump even provided the best body on the beach winner a swimsuit, as she had forgotten to change after a previous photo shoot. In 1993, Roseanne Lair, an ex-girlfriend of Donald Trump, has become an overnight sensation after she publicly called out the New York Times and accused two reporters of lying to her. This is what that was all about. The Times wrote an article, and it said, quote, Donald J. Trump had barely met Roanne Brewer Lane when he asked her to change out of her clothes, end quote. This is we remember we were talking about. She hadn't been able to change out of this swimsuit, and he asked her, you know. All right, so here's how it goes on. It went on to say that Trump, in the midst of divorcing his first wife, asked the then 26-year-old Brewer Lane to change. Quote, she said, quote, according to the reporters of the New York Times, he took me into a room and opened drawers and asked me to put on a swimsuit, end quote. And then the Times article says that he showed her off to the crowd at Mar-a-Lago with the words, quote, this is a stunning Trump girl, isn't she? Brewer Lane told Fox News that she was in fact flattered, not insulted, and said that the Times reporters spun it completely differently. Fair enough. She currently lives in North Carolina with her teen daughter. She says she still has fond memories of her romance with Trump, a relationship that ended when she moved to Los Angeles to work in films and TV. She never quite made it big, however. Her biggest role was in a 1992 comedy, Round Trip to Heaven, with Corey Feldman. While in LA, she began dating another billionaire. She specialized in billionaires, it seems like, a billionaire developer, Mohammed Hadid, the father of supermodels Gigi and Belia Hadid. They were engaged for 3 years in the early 1990s, but never married. So there we have number 3, Miss Lane. Now we'll go to mistress number 4. Are you taking notes for this, by the way? Because there's going to be a pop quiz at the end of this. I'm going to give you a pop quiz, so you better take notes.
Oh, I'm taking any notes, Len.
You're writing on something. I don't know what you're writing on. Okay. Number 4 is Kylie Bax. Now, back in the 90s, Kylie Bax was a renowned supermodel who graced fashion weeks in New York, London, and Paris. Born in 1975 in New Zealand, she had worked for Versace, Chanel, Gucci, Christian Dior, Oscar de la Renta, Christian Lacrosse, and many more. She appeared in movies like Stormcatcher, Get Over It, and The Big Tease. Now, Bax has a long-standing friendship with Donald Trump since the 1990s. She and Donald Trump started dating in 1995, at least that's what people were saying. In any case, the hush-hush romance left a good impression on Bax. When Trump announced he was running for president in 2016 and was labeled a misogynist by various female companions and commentators, Bax jumped to his defense. Quote, he's a very generous man. He's very kind. He's obviously a very smart man who knows how to negotiate deals, she told a New Zealand newspaper back then. She also labeled the women who attacked him after claiming he made unwanted advances towards them as desperate for, quote, 5 minutes of fame, end quote. That was, in fact, a very short time, but she certainly liked Mr. Trump. Okay, now mistress number 5, Allison Giannani. Ex-model, she's an ex-model, she's not any model, but she used to be a model, was 27 years old when she met Donald Trump. The pair was set up on a blind date, and soon after Trump separated from his second wife, Marlena Maples. So she started with this person, this model, after he broke up from his second wife. It doesn't say, it says separated, so I don't know if he was officially divorced, but he was separated. Trump, who was then 50, and Gianna, who was 27, went out on 3 dates in Aspen, Colorado in December 1997. On their first date, she said the restaurant comped their bill. The business mogul then, Trump, responded by tipping $100 on a $40 meal. The former model, who graced the pages of Elle magazine, said the romance did not last, and, quote, he talked about Marla and how much he loved her, end quote. Well, you know, you're dating somebody else and you're talking about your wife and how much you love her. Doesn't sound like the most romantic thing anyway, but he kept talking about it. But she said it didn't bother her, really. It didn't bother her. Moreover, she always has spoken very highly of Donald Trump whenever she had a chance. According to her, he is smart and a great guy, and even if lots of things are said about him. Quote, she said, he was so smart, I know a lot of things are said about him, but to me, he's a great, great guy. We get along great, end quote. Jiminy said that during their 3 dates, she, quote, only kissed him once, end quote, and that it was, quote, a short peck, end quote. So it wasn't much of a physical relationship, at least according to her. I don't know what Trump has said about it. Despite recent criticism of Trump's treatment of women, like backs, she also said the real estate tycoon was a perfect gentleman. Quote, as far as treating women, he treated me just wonderfully. I really think he has a sweet side to him that a lot of people don't know or see. He was very gentlemanly, opening doors, pulling out chairs for me, end quote. She never heard from him again after their time in Aspen, way back when, 20 some odd years ago. She said, it was the party season in Aspen. I never heard from him. He went his way, I went my way, and that was it, end quote. Okay, number 5. Now we're going to go to number 6, Kara Young. Now we're getting into get a little more racy.
Why don't you just cut his prick off?
Yeah.
That's what I prefer to see.
No. We're not in favor of genital mutilation. Okay, Karen Young. Karen Young is a biracial model who had a very successful modeling career posing for Vogue, Playboy, and Victoria's Secret. The model met Trump in 1997 at a party in the Hamptons while he was still separated from Marla. So he hadn't been divorced yet, but he met her at a party in the Hamptons. And for those of you who've seen La Cage aux Folles, you know all about the Hamptons. But if you haven't known about the Hamptons from La Cage aux Folles, you got to watch the movie with Nathan Lane and Robin Williams. It's a great film. Okay, at the time she was engaged. Here, at the time that she was seeing Trump, she was also engaged to a celebrity gossip columnist by the name of A.J. Benza. Okay, now here's where we get going good. The New York Times, the old gray lady, reported that Maggie Haberman, which had written a book called Confidence Man, The Making of Donald Trump and the Breaking of America, reported that the former president had made a joke about Miss Young's white father and black mother. Quote, according to the article, Trump told Miss Young that she had gotten her beauty from her mother and her intelligence from her dad, the white side, end quote. In an interview with Inside Edition, Miss Young spoke about the incident, saying that she believed the former president had been making a joke. It really happened, but she believed he'd been making a joke, but that she was quick to point out to him that it was an inappropriate one. Quote, it sounds when someone says something in jest, are they kidding? I don't know, end quote, she said. It wasn't a fight or anything like that. It was just more like, no, don't say that. It's not funny. He said I was just joking. I was just kidding. No, I don't think that. Miss Young dated Trump for 2.5 years, from 1997, following his divorce from his second wife, Marla Maples. The 47-year-old explained that she felt motivated to break her 5-year silence about their relationship after getting frustrated by the constant barrage of questions. When something is said for years and years and years and you never say anything back, that got as frustrating as if I spoke all the time, said Miss Young. In the interview, she was asked about her statement in 2017 about the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, where he failed to condemn the white supremacists who had gathered in a violent clash in Virginia City and said they were, quote, very fine people on both sides, end quote. Miss Young remained coy about the matter, simply saying, quote, you don't have to ask me how someone is. You can see how they are by what they say and the comments they make, end quote. She said the last time she and Trump spoke was on the night that he won the 2016 presidential election against Democrat Hillary Clinton. Quote, I called to congratulate him for winning president as one would, she said. At the close of the interview with IE, she noted that this interview will be the last time she will speak publicly about her former partner. And as far as I've been able to determine in my research, it was the last time she publicly spoke. Okay, now we get to Karen McDougal. Now we're getting more recent and more salacious. In 2006, Donald Trump met Karen McDougal at a Playboy Mansion party hosted by Hugh Hefner. He got around, didn't he? Hugh Hefner. After keeping in touch, they secretly started dating for 10 months. Roughly a year after he and a pregnant Melania got married. Remember, I said that they got married 2 months after she got pregnant. Okay. One of the interesting things she asserted in the interview that Trump doesn't wear condoms. No wonder they got pregnant. Okay. In order to avoid a paper trail and keep the romance discreet, Trump would have McDougal pay for her own lodging and travel and then give her the money back in person. Unluckily, though, a paper trail is what eventually led to the whole affair becoming public. Before the 2016 election, the Donald Trump allied National Choir owner, American Media Incorporated, paid McDougal $150,000 for the rights to her story about her and Trump. But they did it in order to buy the account and bury it. A friend of McDougal passed her handwritten memoirs to the New Yorker, well, that's how it, she apparently McDougal had these handwritten memoirs, and a friend of hers took it and gave it to the New Yorker. Boy, some friend, right? Anyway, McDougal eventually reached a settlement, a friend of McDougal with American Media, voiding her original non-disclosure agreement and allowing her to reveal spicy details of the romance. So, okay, Karen McDougal, the former Playboy model who said she had an affair with Donald Trump just a day ago, told CNN that at the time she was in love with Trump and Trump was in love with her. Quote, he always told me he loved me, end quote, she told CNN's Anderson Cooper. McDougal said she met Trump at that Playboy Mansion. Quote, he said hello, and then throughout the night it was clear there was attraction from him to me, end quote. McDougal said that Trump had given her his number, and the two met soon after for a date at the Beverly Hills Hotel in June of that year, where they became intimate. McDougal told Anderson Cooper, that Trump tried to offer her money after they had sex. Quote, after we had been intimate, he tried to pay me, and actually I didn't know how to take that, end quote. Cooper asked if Trump tried to hand her money, to which McDougal answered, quote, he did, end quote. Quote, I don't even know how to describe the look on my face. It must have been so sad, end quote. McDougal said that during their relationship, once compared her to his daughter, Ivanka. Quote, he is very proud of Ivanka, as she should be, she said. He said I was beautiful like her. Now, asked if she found it strange that Trump compared someone he was sleeping with to his daughter, McDougal said, no, sort of. Quote, I know a lot of people think it's odd. There's been some comments I've heard in the news that he said about her. I think those comments are wrong. But do I think it's strange that the father would love his daughter so much that he brags about her? No, I brag about my dog that much, end quote. Great, isn't this great? Can't make up this stuff you can't make up. All right, let's go on. Ask what she would say to Trump's wife, Melania. This is what Cooper asked him. Ask him, what would you say to Trump's wife, Melania, who had just given birth to their son, Barron, when the alleged affair happened? McDougal said, quote, what can you say except I'm sorry? I'm sorry. I wouldn't want it done to me. I'm sorry, end quote. So he was having an affair with McDougal while he was married to Melania, and she was having their son. McDougal said she was extremely uncomfortable when, during the visit to his apartment, he showed her Melania's room. She said she later met the future First Lady during a party for The Apprentice. Cooper asked her, "Do you think she knew?" And she replied, "Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It was told to me that they were arguing that night, and I said, why? And somebody had said, probably because of you." McDougal said she eventually ended the relationship after 10 months because she was ridden with guilt and, quote, needed to get out of it, end quote. "It was tearing me apart," she said. She filed a lawsuit to get out of the 2016 non-disclosure agreement that she made with the media. McDougal sued American Media, the National Enquirer's parent company, which, according to the Wall Street Journal, paid her $150,000 to buy her story, but never ran it. The Enquirer's chief executive, David Paker, is a friend of Trump's. Under the settlement agreement, she sued them, all right? And under the settlement agreement, McDougal can keep the $150,000 she was paid, and AMA has the rights up to $75,000 for any profits from her story about the relationship. The company also retains the right to photographs of McDougal that it already has, the settlement said. Karen McDougal's settlement with the company that owns the National Enquirer, she said, quote, "restores to me the right to my life story and frees me from this contract that I was misled into signing nearly 2 years ago," end quote. That is Karen McDougal. And now we get to number 8, and probably the most famous of them all, Stormy Daniels. Now, Stormy Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, here, this article I had an interesting intro to it. It says, time goes by and we're all supposed to mature, but not if you're Donald Trump. When you're Trump, you keep doing the same thing over and over again and getting into trouble, but you just sweep it under the rug when you're caught. And this is what happened with Stormy Daniels. Stephanie Clifford, also known as Stormy Daniels, who was probably the most polarizing figure in Donald Trump's track record. He met the adult film star in July of 2006 at the Edgewood Tahoe golf course. The future president reportedly invited Daniels back up to his room, and that's how they initiated a months-long romance. However, according to Daniels, they only went to bed together once. What a sensation one time in bed has caused. In 2011, rumors about the affair started to spread. Moreover, In Touch Weekly decided not to publish in Daniels' interview after Trump attorney Michael Cohen threatened the magazine with a lawsuit. But that's not all. Cohen paid Daniels, and this is the big thing, $130 a month before the 2000 election, barring her from talking about the rumor. It's a non-disclosure agreement, so she got $130,000 to not talk about her affair with Donald Trump. And this is a month before the election because it wouldn't have done Trump any good, right? However, Cohen's disclosure of the transaction nullified the agreement, allowing Daniels to freely speak about how Donald Trump likes to get spanked. Okay, here we go. It gets better. In 2006, shortly after his wedding to Melania, adult film actress Stormy Daniels alleges that she had an affair with Donald Trump. Years later, as Trump geared up for 2016, she claimed she received $100,000. When the hush money arrangement was uncovered in 2018, it sparked a major scandal that Trump's team claimed was to avoid, quote, campaign distractions. So they paid her $30,000 to avoid campaign distractions. This is alternative facts, right? Okay. However, Cohen later testified that it was a move to influence the election, leading to significant legal scrutiny of the payment and Trump's subsequent business record entries, which allegedly concealed the payment, which, of course, is what Trump was eventually convicted for, 34 felonies for what he did to cover up the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels. Like I said, he was found 34 felony counts of falsifying business records over the payment, making him the first former president in history convicted of a crime. With Trump set to return to office, Stormy is upstandingly set now. On Good Morning Britain, the Star said, quote, "How is someone who's found guilty of even charged with so many crimes even allowed to run for political office?" End quote. Well, only in the United States. And it is an amazing thing that this convicted felon who has not lived exactly the most exemplary life, lived the life of a playboy billionaire, actually, is what he's lived the life of, is now the president of the United States, and the people that support him, especially the evangelical Christians and all this, this should be anathema to them. It's anathema to them. But you know it isn't. And why isn't it? Because they got power now. And when you get power, you're willing to do anything. You're willing to sell your grandmother down the road if you're going to get power. And that's exactly what the evangelical Christians, they've sold everything they've ever believed in. And I'm not supporting what they believed in. I think they're crazy people, absolutely insanity. But it's their insanity. But now they're willing to junk their insanity for power. For power. So that's what it's all about. It's all about power, 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 power. Okay. All right. So that is now you know all about Trump's 8 mistresses and his very exciting lifestyle. Aren't you glad about that? What do you think of Trump's 8 mistresses, Sam?
Oh, you want to talk about your party front Saturday night?
Yeah. I forgot to mention, if you want to call in, if you're listening and you want to talk about Trump at all, here's our phone numbers: 909-383-1000, 909-383-1000, or 909-383-9000, 909-383-9000. We'd love to hear from you. You want to talk about Trump? You want to talk about something else? Give us a call.
I don't even watch him anymore. Every time he comes on CNN or MSNBC, I turn the channel.
Yeah, I once proposed this idea called a day without. This is when the race was still on. A day without Trump, and we go the entire day.
I'm looking forward to a life without Trump.
You take the entire day off, and you don't read or hear anything about Trump. I think we could do that now because it's Trump, and after a while you get kind of tired. Listen, I want to read something else I wrote about Donald Trump, so I think will be very interesting, because this goes on more with the evangelical Christians, because this is even more to the point. When it comes to Donald Trump, that's something I wrote. I am really glad I am not a Christian, as I would be racked with overwhelming guilt, because not only do I hate the sin, but I also hate the sinner. It would seem that Christians would be entitled to make an exception when it comes to having to profess to love Trump. It always boggled my mind how pious evangelical Christians in particular have so embraced this man, who is the real world embodiment of 5 1/4 of the 7 deadly sins. 5 1/4 of the 7 days. So you know what the 7 deadly sins are? Let's talk about them, and let's talk about how Trump is part of them. Lust. Lust is the first deadly sin. What is lust? It's intense or unbridled sexual desire. From Stormy Daniels, who we talked about, and at least 16 other women who have been sexually harassed and assaulted by Trump, his lustful desires are as public as his orange complexion, as well as his 3 marriages to blonde bombshells. While married to Ivana Trump, he had an affair with Marlana Maples, who he married after divorcing Ivana. Here are some quotes from Trump. Quote, it really doesn't matter what the media writes as long as you've got a young and beautiful piece of ass. End quote. Another quote. I said if Ivana weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. End quote. Okay, let's go to another of the 7 deadly sins. Greed. Now, what is greed? Greed is an excessive pursuit of material goods. Trump has cheated on taxes, didn't pay his bills for his workers, filed bankruptcy to not pay debts, and so on, multiple times. So here are some quotes about Trump and greed. Quote, I am a greedy person. I shouldn't tell you that. I am greedy. I've always been greedy. I love money, right? End quote. Another quote. The point is that you can't be too greedy. End quote. and proclaimed during the first presidential debate of 2016 that not paying federal taxes. This is really good. I mean, how can not paying federal? He said this in the debate 2016. Not paying federal taxes, quote, makes me smart, end quote. This is the guy we got president. Avoid paying taxes. All right. What is another 7 sins? Wrath. Now, what is wrath? Wrath is a strong, vengeful anger or indignation, retributory punishment for an offense. Some of the more notable firings and forced resignations during his 2016 reign as president includes Jeff Sessions, John Bolton, Rex Tillerson, Steve Bannon, James Comey, Anthony Scaramucci, Michael Short, Renee Priebus, Sean Spicer, Preet Bharara, Sally Yates, Angela Reid, Chris Christie, Mike Flynn, Alexander Bidman, Mark Yovanovitch, Gordon Sandlin, Michael Atkinson, Glenn Fine, for a fairly complete list. And that's just part of them. He just, he gets pissed. And this is why everybody's so kind of scared. What's he going to do now? He's got control of the Department of Justice. And this is why Biden is considering giving all these pardons, because they know he's going to sit the Department of Justice. He even said recently that the people who were on the January 6th committee, the legislators who were on that committee, they should be in jail. They should be in jail. This is it. So let's go on. There are the invectives and threats he has tossed at Stormy Daniels and the other women in Trump's life. Quote, every woman lied when they came forward to hurt my campaign. Total fabrication. The events never happened. Never. All of them are liars and will be sued after the election is over. Well, the election was over and he didn't sue any of them. Why? I think you know why. Here's some quotes about wrath from Trump. Quote, my motto is always get even. When somebody screws you, screw them back in spades, end quote. Another quote, quote, if I were running The View, that TV show with Rosie O'Donnell and with Goldberg, Whoopi Goldberg and so on. If I were running The View, I'd fire Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, look at her right in that fat, ugly face of her. I say, Rosie, you're fired. Here's another one. Quote, I will say this, has got to go to jail, end quote. So much for wrath. Another 7 deadly sin is pride. And what is pride? An excessive view of oneself without regard for others. Here's some quotes from Trump. Quote, the beauty of me is that I'm very rich, end quote. Quote, I think the only difference between me and the other candidates is that I'm more honest and my women are more beautiful, end quote. Another quote, my IQ is one of the highest and you all know it. Please don't feel so stupid or insecure. It's not your fault, end quote. Another quote, I think I'm actually humble. I am much more humble than you would understand, end quote. Another quote, I know more about ISIS than the generals do, believe me, end quote. Another quote, I think nobody knows more about campaign finance than I do, end quote. Here we go, more pride. Quote, I understand politicians better than anybody, end quote. Quote, nobody knows more about trade than me, end quote. Quote, I know more about renewables than any human being on earth, end quote. Quote, I think nobody knows more about taxes than I do, maybe in the history of the world, end quote. Quote, look, as a builder, nobody in the history of this country has ever done so much about infrastructure as Donald Trump. All right. Envy. Envy is an awareness of advantage enjoyed by another joined with the desire to possess the same advantage. That's what envy is, and that's one of the 7 deadly sins. He envies Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, Recep Erdogan of Turkey, Xi Jinping, Viktor Orban of Hungary, and a multitude of other right-wing authoritarian rulers for their control, arresting adversaries and brooking no opposition. He has always been envious of Barack Obama, an envy that has become an obsession. How much of an obsession? No, unbelievable. The birther bit and all this kind of stuff. All right, now we're into the last 2. First, one of them is gluttony, which is an excessive and ongoing eating of food or drink. Okay, here's where Trump qualifies for only half of a deadly sin. He doesn't drink, but he weighs 243 pounds and has a BMI of 30. So he's guilty of gluttony, at least when it comes to food. Finally, the last sin he is not guilty of, and that is sloth. Sloth is an excessive laziness or the failure to act and utilize one's talents. Trump is not a sloth. If he only were, the other 6.5 wouldn't matter. Okay, there we go. Trump's affairs and Trump's relationship to the 7 deadly sins. Okay, let's see. Let me see. Let me see what's going on here. Nothing's going on. Okay, so well, let's see. What else we talked about, Sam? Did you know
I'd
there's
like to hear about what's going on Saturday night, Lanny.
Oh, Saturday.
Your if anyone's listening to your show, they'd like to know it too.
Okay, well, yeah, Saturday night. I have an organization I started back in December of 1999 called the Marijuana Anti-Prohibition Project. It's located in the Coachella Valley, where Palm Springs is. And we built ourselves as a medical marijuana patient support group and law reform organization. And we did a lot within the Inland Empire. We got Palm Springs in 2008 to be the first city in the Inland Empire, the entire Inland Empire, to actually allow for medical marijuana collectives to open up and operate legally. They were the only ones who did it until 2015. The only ones who had the guts to do it. And they were threatened by the Riverside County DA with all kinds of fire and brimstone if they did it, but they still went ahead and did it anyway. And we were also one of the things that got Riverside County, which used to be such a backwater in regards to marijuana, to actually allow medical marijuana patients to grow up to 24 plants indoors and outdoors. So patients could easily grow the amount they need. You know, all this stuff with Senate Bill 420, you can grow 6 plants indoors. You can't grow enough for all your needs, but now Riverside County says you can. So we've done a lot. We've lobbied and found this kind of stuff. Anyway, it's our 25th anniversary, and we're having a party, and it's going to be at a place called the 420 Bank in downtown Palm Springs at 296 South Canyon Drive. Palm Canyon Drive, and we're going to have a dessert bar, and it's a dispensary. You can get marijuana there, and they're a lounge, so you can party and have a good time and smoke marijuana like you could drink alcohol at a bar. Well, this place you can smoke marijuana and have a good time. Now, listen, folks, if you do come, you know, it's a dispensary. You know, you don't bring your own bottle of Jack Daniels into a bar when you go there, and you don't bring your own cannabis into a dispensary lounge when you go there. You buy some of them there because they have to stay in business. So, but you'll be able to get it, and they have great prices, and it's wonderful stuff, and we can have a great time. One of the fun things is Sam, who is one of the executive producers of a movie called Mary Jane the Movie. We're going to be showing portions of that movie on the big screen they have. Especially some of the musical numbers, which are just wonderful. This movie never got a theatrical release, did it, Sam?
What?
The movie never got a theatrical release, did it? Mary Jane the Movie.
Well, I was busy with personal stuff. My co-producers got snookered by a distributor in Florida who killed it. Basically, well, they talked us in. They made us an offer that my other guys could refuse, and then they never promoted it. They just held it aside. I think that they were very much anti-cannabis. So we just got the contract back. Yes, it was available on various platforms. Yes, it was distributed. You could order it for money on every paying platform. But there must have been like 200 viewers that paid for it, because the distributor never followed through with the promotion plan that they said they'd do. So, you know, basically it's unseen except for people that I encourage to look at.
Well, you'll be able to see it. It's a great film. I have seen it, and you'll be able to see it at our party on this coming.
Great music. It's got 16 original songs.
Yeah, it's great. We had a thing
got
at
a
the
great
California
scene with Ed Asner in it.
Sam, yes, that's right. Ed Anderson, that's right. And we had a great thing. Sam brought a whole bunch of the cast performers down to the California Democratic Party State Convention one year, and they performed numbers. It was a lot of fun. It was really great. So anyway, the party's going to be this Saturday, December 21st at 7 p.m. Now that's also the 21st. That means it's also the winter solstice. So we got a double celebration. We're going to be celebrating the 25th anniversary of MAP, and we're going to be celebrating the winter solstice. And you know, you should be with friends and have a good time on the winter solstice, right? Holiday that dates back like what 5,000 years, and it's one of the oldest holidays that's ever been known to humans. So come and celebrate with and celebrate the thing. That we're gonna have some door prizes to give away. We're gonna have a dessert bar with ice cream and cake and pie and all the cookies and all that kind of good stuff. So put it down on your calendar this Saturday, 7 p.m., 420 Bank, 296 South Palm Canyon Drive in downtown Palm Springs. It starts at 7 o'clock, and we'll have a great time, and you really should come down and see us. We'd love to see you there. All right, so now what else is there? We're running out of time. I want to talk about one other thing. What else? Let me make some notes. Oh, yes. In honor of the Christian Heat season, KCA Radio is going to be not broadcasting any new programs for the rest of this month after the end of this week. So we will not be on for 2 weeks, and we won't be back on again until the first week in January. So, but tune in anyway. At 8 o'clock, they're going to be playing some great music and some old programs and all this kind of stuff. Not old programs of us, but anyway, so we will not be on the air or on the podcast either for the next 2 weeks, but we will be coming back in January with a whole bunch of new stuff. Okay, let's see now. What else did I make note here about? That's about all the things I made notes about. You know, one thing I thought I might want to mention that, you know, Cal Normal is really a great organization. And they had an article about, I don't know if you know about this, and I haven't heard very much about it, but it's really very concerning to me. And that is that a new report on high-potency cannabis by the California Department of Public Health raises important concerns for the cannabis community. So there's this report that came out from the California Department of Public Health, not the Department of Cannabis Control, the California Public Health. The report blames high-potency products of cannabis for the rising incidence of cannabis use disorder, something called habitual overuse. This cannabis use disorder is bullshit. You know, just because
I want a cannabis use disorder. Yeah, how can I get a cannabis use disorder? You know,
yeah, people, for example, who have pain and are using cannabis. Using cannabis.
Habitual overuse.
Yeah. Are using cannabis to treat their pain instead of opioids, are consuming a lot of cannabis. So they have cannabis use disorder because they're not consuming it. So it'd be okay by the California Department of Public Health if they used opioids and kill themselves, and not okay if they use high potency cannabis. So cannabis use disorder, this is just bullshit. It's really reefer madness. Cannabis psychosis, hyperemesis syndrome, which is very rude, and emergency use and frequent use by youth under 21. And this frequent use by youth 20, there is a report that just came out from the Minneapolis, Minnesota thing there. It says youth drug use defies expectation and continues to decline. It says right here, for marijuana, decreases in use among students are more recent development. All 3 grades, the percentage who used marijuana in the past 12 months hovered within a tight window of just a few percentage points in the 20 years. In 2021, the first year surveyed after the pandemic and said substantial declines in marijuana use took place in all 3 grades. So marijuana use is down in teenagers, and this report from the California Department of Public Health just lies and says it's up. I don't know, they're using it. And of course, you know, I often talk about why is teen use down of marijuana. You know, I really thought that once Proposition 64, teen use would go up because they'd go to marijuana instead of alcohol. But it's not. It's gone down. And why has it gone down? I'll tell you why. Because the kids are seeing their parents using marijuana, and it's no longer cool. If their parents use it, it's no longer cool. They're not going to use it. So it's going down.
It's legal.
It's legal.
So
yeah, no, it's legal. yeah, but it's because their parents use it. When I was a kid, I didn't want to do anything my parents did. That's for sure. My parents played bridge all the time. I didn't want to play bridge. Okay, the report makes several key recommendations aimed at reducing access to high potency cannabis. So they're trying to have put in limits on how potent cannabis. This has got to be stopped. We got to watch this, and I'll be reporting on in future shows what's going on with this. But they're going to try to take away high potency cannabis, and that's insanity. That's insane. It's the same thing with this vaping, and they're trying to with the cigarettes. They're trying to make it so you can't have flavors in cigarettes. Vaping tobacco is so much healthier than smoking it. You should be doing everything you possibly can. If people are going to smoke, you should be doing everything you possibly can to get people to vape instead of smoking. Because what kills you isn't the nicotine. It's not good for you, but it doesn't kill you. What kills you is the smoke that gets in your lungs and causes lung cancer. People who smoke tobacco are 10 times more likely to die from lung cancer than people who don't, because smoking tobacco is, and by the way, that's not true of marijuana. You're not any more likely to die from lung cancer smoking marijuana than if you don't smoke marijuana. That was Dr. Donald Tashkin showed that, and study after study after study has shown that true. But tobacco, absolutely yes, you're 10 times more likely. So anything that would get people to stop smoking, such as flavored vaping products, would be a wonderful thing to have. And instead, we're trying to make all this crazy stuff. And this is the same thing with cannabis. They want to take away high potency cannabis, so you're going to have more, you're going to have to ingest more to get the same amount, because you got higher potency, you just don't use as much. Right. Okay, so I think my engineer, whatever I say, right. So we only got a couple more minutes left, so I want to remind you about a couple things. One thing I want to remind you about is New Year's Eve is coming up. And that's party time, right? And what happens in New Year's Eve, if people go out drinking and they get drunk and they get in car accidents and they get injured and they get killed and they have high insurance rates and all these problems, I encourage you to think this New Year's, don't drink, use cannabis. When you get to have a party with your friends, use cannabis. Don't have alcohol around. Go to I don't know, I was about to say, you can go to these lounges on New Year's Eve and celebrate there, but you can't. Why? Because they have to close at 10 o'clock. You have to close at 10 o'clock. Why can't cannabis lounges stay open until 2 in the morning, just like bars?
You're a killjoy, Lanny. You're a killjoy.
No, it's the states that killjoy. They won't let people party in cannabis lounges after 10 p.m.
That's better to have cannabis and alcohol and get a ride home from a taxi or a friend.
This New Year's Eve, welcome the new year with a joint with your friends. You'll have a better time, and you really want to get bombed, and use a wax. Go dabbing. That's really good. That'll really send you through the roof for 15 minutes, and you'll have a great time. And when you wake up the next morning, you'll feel fine. You won't be hungover. You'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to greet 2026 with wide eyes and really, really happy. So, hey, there goes the music. Say thank you so much. That's my last show for 2024. We will see you back in 2025 on Lanny Sense, on the station that leaves no listener behind, and we're the show that leaves no gender behind. Good night.
NBC News on KCAA